All rise. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. The United States District Court for the Western District of Texas, sitting in Waco, the Honorable Orlando L. Garcia, Chief United States District Judge presiding, is now open pursuant to adjournment. All ye having business before this honorable court, draw nigh, and ye shall be heard. God save the United States and this her honorable court.
You may be seated. I am Chief Judge, U.S. District Judge Orlando Garcia for the Western District, and we're gathered on this day for the exclusive and sole purpose of swearing in the newest U.S. District Judge for the Western District of Texas. I want to thank the Investiture Committee, Mr. Nash and his committee, and the sponsors for arranging this very small gathering on this day at this beautiful, magnificent Big 12 football field. I want to thank the members of the bar in this community, the Baylor community, Baylor University, and the community of Waco for inviting us on such a wonderful, glorious day for such a wonderful, glorious purpose. At this time, we'll have the presentation of the colors by the U.S. Army Color Guard, the 20th Battalion, Fort Hood, Texas, and you may please rise. And if you will remain standing for the national anthem that'll be offered by a personal friend of Judge Albright, Mr. Monty Warden, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance offered by James Albright, Grayson Albright, and Diego Kuhn. and then followed by the invocation by the Reverend Jeff Hatton, Senior Pastor of Redeemer Waco.
Please join me in singing our national anthem for Allen. It's an honor for me to be here today. If ever there was an opportunity to get a speeding ticket fixed, this would be it. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order! Arms! Center! March! Forward! March!
Please join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I hate to begin on a dour note, but I'm kind of sad I didn't bring my own robe. I could have pretended to be a judge all day. Imagine the stories I could have told at the end of the day. Well, it's an honor to be here. This is my first investiture, so I'm a little nervous, but I'm incredibly thankful that I have such a small role. All I have to do is ask God himself to be present. Judge Albright wants you to know that there are 2 Bibles involved today, one from the 1930s that his grandmother gave to his grandfather. The other is one he received in his youth at 12 years old. It's pretty amazing. I could go on because I'm a preacher, but I'm supposed to pray, so we're going to pray. Let's pray together. Oh God, we do ask that you would show up. May you show up in the wonder of your majesty and the massiveness of your mercy. Oh Lord, would you become more clear to our minds and real to our hearts? We thank you that all that we are and all that we have and all that we do is a gift of grace. And we thank you for Alan, for who you've made him to be. And we ask that you would bless him. Speak words of blessing into his soul that energizes his life, his relationships, and his work. Bless him. Establish the work of his hands. Give him wisdom and courage. Give him a confidence without pride and a humility without inferiority. Give him grace and justice and mercy to serve people back to life again. And we ask that you would do this for your glory, for the good of Texas, through Jesus, who is the Lord and Savior of the world. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. You may be seated. The Western District of Texas is one of 4 judicial districts in Texas, and our district was created in 1857. The Waco division of this court, was initially in the Northern District of Texas, and then in 1902, Congress saw fit, and we're grateful for that, to move the Waco division to the Western District. At this time, the Western District consists of 13 active judges. We presently have 12. We have a vacancy in the San Antonio Division. Gratefully, the President has nominated someone to that bench, and we are hopeful that he will be confirmed sometime this summer. We also have 5 senior district judges, and I'd like to introduce the members of the court that are here with us today. There are a few judges that could not be here today for a variety of reasons. One of them, Judge Moses from Del Rio, she has her mom presently in the San Antonio hospital, and I would ask that we remember her mom and her family during these days. With me today is Judge Beery, Fred Beery, appointed by President Clinton, Judge Philip Martinez, appointed by George W. Bush, Judge Kathleen Cardone, appointed by George W. Bush, Judge Frank Montalvo, appointed by George W. Bush, Judge Lee Yackel, appointed by George W. Bush, Sam Sparks, appointed by President Reagan, Judge Xavier Rodriguez by George W. Bush, President. Okay. Okay. Judge Pittman by President Obama, Judge Counts by President Trump, Judge Ezra by President Reagan. We are fortunate today to have 2 circuit judges with us, Circuit Judge Jerry Smith by President Reagan and Circuit Judge Jennifer Elrod by George W. Bush. And seated along up here also is Waco Magistrate Jeffrey Mansky. At this time, I'd like to call upon Mr. Nash, who's the chairman of the Investiture Committee, for other introductions.
Thank you, Chief Judge Garcia. Thank you, judges of the Western District. May it please the court. Wow, what a tremendous group we have here today. I can't even see to the back of the audience back there. So thank you all for being here. I know many of you have traveled from very far to be here. There's people that have traveled from across Texas, people that have traveled from across the country. There's even people that have traveled overseas to be here today. So thank you all very much for being there, and welcome to this incredible event. It is a true honor to be here today for Judge Albright. He has been many things: tremendous trial lawyer, devoted son, loving father, stylish dresser. He's got an incredible tie on today. I think you all saw that. He has been my mentor and colleague, but most importantly, he has been an incredibly true and dear friend to me. And I know I'm not unique in that regard. I know he's been a true friend to many of you. He has a lot of love, and he gives it out freely. And I know that's why we have such an incredible showing here today. So thank you all for being here to honor him. You all mean a lot to the judge, but there are a few people that we're going to recognize individually at this moment. First, we welcome and honor our Fifth Circuit judges in attendance: the Honorable Jerry E. Smith, the Honorable Jennifer Walker Elrod, United States Circuit judges for the Fifth Circuit. District judges of other districts that are in attendance tonight, or this afternoon, include the Honorable Fernando Rodriguez, the Honorable Karen Grin Scholler, the Honorable Amos Mazant, the Honorable Jeremy Kernodle, and the Honorable David S. Morales. A couple of additional additions here: the Honorable Ed Kincaid and the Honorable Trey Schrader. So thank you all for being here today. We also have a few judicial nominees in attendance: Mr. Michael Troncalli, Mr. Sean Jordan, and I think actually this just in, Mr. J. Campbell Barker has been voted in. So congratulations, Mr. Barker. No longer a nominee. From Senator Cornyn's office, Sandy Edwards, thank you for being here. All of the magistrate judges in attendance, both in this district and other districts, thank you for being here. The Honorable Kent R. Hance, former representative and Texas Tech University Chancellor, thank you for being here. The Honorable Kenneth W. Starr, former circuit judge, Solicitor General, and President and Chancellor of Baylor University, is here today. Thank you. Dignitaries from the Western District of Texas include Ms. Jeanette Clack, Clerk of Court, Mr. Rick Golden, Chief of Probation Services, Ms. Rebecca Saad, Chief of Pretrial Services, Mr. John Bash, U.S. Attorney, and Ms. Susan Pamerlo, United States Marshal. Thank you all for being here. Just 3 more pages, hold on. All members of their state, county, and local judiciary in attendance. I'm not going to list you all, but thank you all for being here. All members of our state, area, county, and local government in attendance, including Mr. Jeffrey Oldham, General Counsel for Governor Greg Abbott, the Honorable Kyle Deaver, Mayor of Waco, the Honorable Barry Johnson, the McLennan County District Attorney, and Ms. Jennifer Ritchie, City Attorney for the City of Waco. Thank you all for being here. We also have a number of university representatives in attendance. Thank you all for being here. And now for everyone else that I haven't mentioned by name, please stand up and we can recognize you. You're very important too. With that, thank you all for being here. Welcome to this wonderful event. It's a great honor to be here for Judge Albright today. And I think we're going to roll some tape now from Senators Cornyn and Cruz.
Hi, I'm Texas Senator John Cornyn. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person today, but I wanted to congratulate my friend Alan on his investiture. I was proud to recommend him for this important role, and I have no doubt he will serve Waco and the nation well. Alan, I send my best wishes as you continue to proudly uphold the law under our Constitution. Congratulations.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome all the members of the judiciary in attendance today, from the Circuit Court, District Court, and Bankruptcy Court, all the state court judges, and members of the legal profession, and all the many other distinguished guests who've joined us here today. It's a pleasure to be able to congratulate Alan Albright on the occasion of his formal investiture. Alan has built a strong record as a civil litigator, a United States magistrate judge, and an adjunct professor of law at the University of Texas School of Law. And he today is undertaking the great responsibility of serving as a federal district judge and of continuing to exercise principled and fair jurisprudence while upholding the Constitution and enforcing the rule of law. I was glad to join with Senator Cornyn in recommending Alan to the President for this position. The people of the Western District of Texas, and all Americans, will be well served by Judge Albright's professionalism, experience, and commitment to the Constitution. Thank you, Alan, and I hope that everyone joining you today has a wonderful afternoon. God bless you all, and God bless Texas.
I'm going to say a few kind words about you. And I did say just a few. Mr. Pritchard, David Pritchard, is a member of the bar from San Antonio, and he is entrusted with the responsibility on behalf of the 2 U.S. senators from Texas, Senators Cornyn and Cruz, and he's chairman of the committee that evaluates the various applicants who seek to be a federal judge. It is a thankless job, and he spends many, many hours on this project. And Mr. Pritchard, on behalf of the Western District, we are grateful for the time and commitment you make to the court. And now you may come up.
It is tough to follow 2 United States senators and the chief of the Western District, but I'm going to give it a try. Chief Judge Garcia, members of the Western District Court family, Judge Albright, honored guests. My name is David Pritchard, and I'm a practicing lawyer in San Antonio, and I have the fortunate privilege to be chairman of the Federal Judicial Evaluation Committee, or as we commonly call it, the F-check. That doesn't sound real good, but we're going to move on anyway. So I am deeply grateful to Judge Albright for asking me to say a few things. A little bit about what the group does and the process that this fine individual has been through to get here today. The F-check is a volunteer committee of about 30 lawyers from around the state. We have some of our members here in the audience today. And we are the committee that makes recommendations to our senators for 3 positions. They are the Texas members of the 5th Circuit Court of Appeals out of New Orleans. You've been introduced to 2 of those members that are with us today. For all of the members of the United States District Courts throughout the state of Texas, and the 4 United States attorneys who also lead their districts throughout the state of Texas. So some of you may wonder, how do you get to be a federal judge? Well, pardon those who already know this, but I'm going to digress into a little bit of a civics lesson, and it's a great question. Some of you may think that Alan has some special insight, being a great friend of Senator Cornyn or Senator Cruz. Some of you may think he's got a mole inside the White House. And while that may have been true a few years ago, that is no longer the case. And I think after I kind of explain very briefly, the process that Alan went through to get here, I think you'll have an appreciation of the arduous task that people go through to become an Article III judge. The coming of this day for Alan Albright has been long, arduous, and uncertain. Step 1, we have a terribly onerous application process that people, individuals who are interested in applying, have to fill out, and they have 30 days to do it. This is going back cases that they handled as lawyers, places that they have been, grades from college, grades from law school, a very comprehensive application. All 35 members of our committee then evaluate those applications and they vote. They vote and rank these individuals such that 4 or 5 of the top candidates have an opportunity to appear before our committee at their own expense, right? That's going to be a common theme as we go through this very briefly. And then they have personal interviews with the committee. And the committee asks them anything they want to do, anything they want to ask for 30 to 45 minutes. And these committee hearings are held around the state. Alan's committee meeting, I believe, was in Dallas. And we're fortunate that both of our senators are distinguished lawyers, members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and have a very deep interest in these positions. So, step 4, after the interviews, the committee votes again, ranks again, and those rankings go to Washington, and the top vote getters get a personal interview with our 2 United States senators at their own expense, again. Then the senators and their staff make recommendations to the White House for the White House's consideration. Then the FBI gets involved, and an exhaustive and extensive background check ensues. Assuming no red flags occur, the applicant will then go back to Washington to interview with White House counsel at your own expense. And then the president will nominate the candidate. So you say, aha, that's the finish, right? And in the immortal words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friends, because then a lot of hard work begins. The next step, White House counsel and Justice Department ask for even more detailed information in what's called the SJQ. And if you thought our application was difficult, try filling out the SJQ. Then the American Bar Association becomes involved in the process, and my friend Leonard will tell you a little bit about that. They have a personal interview. They have a questionnaire. The Senate Judiciary Committee then asks for you to come to Washington to interview with them at your own expense. And the Senate Judiciary Committee then has the opportunity to send written questions, and they inevitably do, to the applicant that they have to answer in very short order. And then the Senate Judiciary Committee votes on the individual. And assuming you pass that vote, you have to wait for your name to appear to have a vote on the entire Senate floor where all 100 senators vote on this candidacy. Finally, the president signs your commission, and maybe Chief Judge Garcia will swear you in, and then we'll all convene at an event like this to honor our new federal judges. I don't know about you, I'm exhausted just thinking about it, and I need a nap, but I got to drive back to San Antonio when we're finished. Then let me just tell you that this entire process can take years. As a matter of fact, we have a dear friend, a young judge here today, who spent personally 10 years in this process. Now think about that. Think about putting your life, your work, your career on hold for 10 years while you wait maybe to see if you're going to be a federal judge. In Alan's case, because of his quality, because of his character, because of his experience, it took Judge Albright 18 months. Still a long time. Do you take that new case that gets called in? Do you have to pass it off to one of your partners? What do? You know you're in the queue, but months go by without hearing from anybody. I field a lot of calls from people saying, where am I? And my good friends in Washington with the Senators Committee and the senators also field a lot of calls. But this is a rigorous process to ensure that we get the best and the brightest. It's a lifetime appointment. No more campaigning, no more elections. Only by impeachment can you be removed. A lifetime. In Alan's case, as a young man, that's a long time. So my sincerest congratulations to you, Alan. You're going to be an outstanding United States District Judge, but more importantly, congratulations to all of you in the Waco Division of the Western District of Texas for an outstanding new federal judge.
I'll now ask another member of the bar, a distinguished member of the bar, Leonard Gilbert, who's with the law firm of Holland and Knight, and who's with the American Bar Association Evaluation Committee. Mr. Gilbert.
May it please the Court. Chief Judge Garcia, Judges Smith and Elrod of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and other distinguished judges, members of the Judge Albright's family, and other honored guests. My name is Leonard Gilbert. I'm a member of the firm of Holland and Knight, and it is an honor and a pleasure to appear here today on this special occasion on behalf of the American Bar Association Standing Committee on the Federal Judiciary. I had the privilege of conducting the evaluation of Judge Albright for appointment to the United States District Court for the Western District of Texas. I'd like to pause for just a moment and acknowledge and congratulate Baylor on winning the women's basketball NCAA final, which took place in my hometown just a short time ago. They did it at the final buzzer before an excited crowd of 20,000 people. It was a fantastic game. Great work. For over 70 years, the Standing Committee on the Federal Judiciary has evaluated the qualifications of virtually all of the potential nominees for the federal bench. The United States Senate, through its Committee on the Judiciary, has received our ratings on every Article III and Article IV judicial nomination since 1948. This was a procedure set up by President Eisenhower, and it continues to receive and consider the committee's ratings of nominees. The committee consists of one member from each federal judicial circuit, except for the Ninth Circuit, which, because of its size, has two representatives. The Standing Committee has no candidate of its own. Its function is to receive the names of nominees from the President and to conduct the investigation of their qualifications from the standpoint of professional competence, integrity, and judicial temperament, as well as general reputation in professional and community circles. The results of each investigation are then reported to the President and to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Since a major portion of our investigation consists of interviews of judges and lawyers, in a very real sense, the Standing Committee serves as the conduit by which the views of the bench and bar are communicated to the Senate. The Standing Committee performs the only nonpartisan, non-ideological peer review of all judicial nominees in the nomination process. I have been a member of the bar of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals for a very long time. I have vetted at least two members of that court, as well as Judge Mazant, who is here today, and other district judges within that circuit. Thus, it was a pleasure to take on this assignment. In the case of a lawyer who is nominated, such as Alan Albright, our investigation typically consists of interviews with various judges of the federal courts and state courts, lawyers whom the potential nominee has litigated with or against, judges before whom the potential nominee has appeared, and persons with whom he has worked: United States attorneys, federal defenders, law school deans, and other members of the profession, educators, and civic leaders, as well as a review of the potential nominee's legal writing. We utilize the questionnaire that Dave Pritchard referred to that is submitted to the United States Senate as a starting point for our investigations. We try to speak with current and former colleagues. From all of this investigation, the investigator prepares an exhaustive report about the size of the Manhattan telephone directory, if they still had telephone directories. And then each member of the committee independently analyzes that report. All of those 15 persons on the committee share the goal of achieving excellence in judicial appointments. We conduct numerous confidential interviews of a wide cross-section of the legal community. I had the pleasure with speaking to some of you who are here today. Everyone with whom I spoke had high praise for Alan Albright. He was uniformly supported by the attorneys who worked with him, those who opposed him in court, and the judges before whom he appeared or with whom he worked when he was a magistrate judge. They expressed the view that he possesses all of the qualities necessary to be an outstanding federal district judge: keen intellect, sound judgment, outstanding character, and excellent temperament. You also told me that he is very bright, a personable guy, a great listener, and a good human being with a passion and intellect for the law. Many of you said, and I quote, "You cannot find a better person to serve as U.S. District Judge," unquote. In conducting the Standing Committee's investigation of Alan Albright, I contacted approximately 200 lawyers and judges and received responses from at least half of them, if not more. About 14 months ago, I spent a day in Austin with Judge Albright in his law office. At that time, I learned a great deal about him from his early days, his college days, law school days, as well as his experience in law firms, as a law clerk to a federal judge, as a U.S. magistrate judge, as a participant in civic activities, and as a participant in continuing legal education programs. Judge Albright has a wide variety of experiences, life experiences and legal experiences, which have helped to prepare him for this honorable position. Indeed, in my investigation, there was a consistent theme: well-prepared, professional competence, sound judicial temperament, high integrity and character, superior knowledge of the law, interested in helping people, the humility needed to be calm under pressure, and thought to be well qualified by the overwhelming majority of lawyers, educators, and judges whom I interviewed. I was told that Judge Albright would serve well the bench and bar and the parties who would appear before him. I was also told that he was a skilled trial lawyer, that it would be hard to find someone with his depth of experience in trying cases of various types, and that he will make an outstanding trial judge. My conclusion was that if Alan Albright was to be described in a few words, those words would be that in his service as a federal judge, he would strive to be fair and effective. He is a solid individual who's interested in the well-being of others, how society treats parties in the judicial system, and will seek to find the best way to deal with societal problems. He will listen carefully, follow the law, and strive to do the right thing. After its analysis of my report, the committee concluded that Alan Albright fully met the committee's high standards and qualifications for membership on this court, and reported to the President and to the Senate Judiciary Committee that Alan Albright was well qualified for the position of District Court for the Western District of Texas. Well qualified is the committee's highest rating and means the nominee satisfied the committee that he was on the top of the legal profession in his community. He has outstanding legal ability and experience and has demonstrated his capacity in the past as a lawyer and a magistrate judge. Those are positive indicators that the nominee will be able to perform satisfactorily all of the duties and responsibilities required of a federal district judge. After a hearing, the Senate committee approved Judge Albright and sent his nomination to the full Senate for its approval, and the President appointed him. Judge Albright comes to the district court with a life history that has given him a broad understanding of the needs of clients, the work of practicing lawyers, as well as the need to have a court and the judiciary run efficiently. I've had the privilege of conducting these investigations for more than a decade. I have met many excellent and diverse nominees. From my experience, I am sure that Judge Albright will discharge the duties of his office with distinction. A federal judge, as you heard David say, is the only lifetime appointment in our government. It therefore matters a great deal that the selection and investigation of any nominee for this important position be a thorough one. An independent judiciary is the bulwark of our democracy. It ensures adherence to the rule of law. I am pleased to share with you a summation of the comments that I received about Alan Albright. Quote, "His courtroom will be a place of fairness, civility, professionalism, and when appropriate, humor. He will take the matters before him seriously, but he will not take himself too seriously, a rare and important quality for a judge." My late partner, Chesterfield Smith, the former president of the American Bar Association, was an advocate of strong and an independent judiciary, and is best remembered for his statement, "No man is above the law," a statement that he made during the Watergate crisis. But Chesterfield had favorite terms for encouragement which he shared with lawyers and non-lawyers alike. And if he were here today, he would urge all of us to be somebody and do good. Judge Albright, we all know that you will do both. On behalf of the American Bar Association and the Standing Committee on the Federal Judiciary, I extend my heartiest congratulations to Judge Albright and his family. I wish him all the best, what I'm sure will be a long and distinguished career as a United States District Judge. Judge Albright, I have every confidence in you and know that you will be a success by any measure. Thank you for the privilege of allowing me to be here today.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. And Mr. Gilbert, thank you, and please convey to the American Bar Association our appreciation for the much good work and contributions you do for the federal judiciary. We are appreciative. This time I'll call two members of the bar for some remarks. First, we'll hear from Mr. Gregory Bopp, managing partner at Bracewell, and then Mr. Billy Coy Dower, partner with Vincent & Elkins.
Thank you, Judge, and may it please the Court, it's an honor to be part of this grand occasion and to celebrate and congratulate Alan Albright on achieving this milestone in his remarkable professional career. I'm very excited to be here. So I have, as the leader of a large law firm, I'm used to speaking to large groups of lawyers, but not quite this large, and this is a little intimidating. But I'm excited to be here. So if I go back 2 years ago, I'm up in the Austin office for meetings with partners, clients. I see Alan Albright in the hallway, who tells me that in passing, he says, "I think I'm going to become a federal judge." I thought, well, okay. I was like, I don't know exactly how that works. I think you have to get nominated and confirmed, and there's a process. But he said it in an incredibly nonchalant way. I went back to Houston, immediately called a management committee meeting, and I said, "I think Alan Albright's having a midlife crisis." But here we are today. And Alan said, "I'm telling you, I think in about 2 years from now, you're going to be standing at a stage speaking at my investiture." So I'm really excited and proud to be here. So for my piece of the remarks, I'm just going to spend a few minutes, or really a couple minutes. I had the occasion last week to see former Bracewell partner and Fifth Circuit Judge Hal DeMoss, who I told him, I said, one of our partners in Austin is going to be a federal judge, and I'm speaking at his investiture, and he said, "Be brief," and everybody will appreciate that. So I'm going to do that. I've practiced at Bracewell for 25 years, and over that period of time, I currently serve as the firm managing partner, and I've come to appreciate the attributes that make a good lawyer a great law firm partner. From my perspective, there are three simple attributes. One, being an excellent practitioner who commands the respect of his or her colleagues and the trust of his or her clients. Two, serving as a dedicated mentor and teacher of younger lawyers. And three, being a good person who's genuine, approachable, and friendly to everyone. Alan certainly possesses all of those characteristics. So let me talk first about Alan's excellence as a practitioner. So Alan joined Bracewell in 2009 as an intellectual property partner in our Austin office. I've actually had the occasion, and I like Alan so much, I've hired him twice. So he came to the firm in 2009. About 5 years later, he left the firm. He called me up. He said, I'm leaving the firm. I'm going to another fantastic law firm. And I hope you're not mad at me and all those sorts of things. And I said, Alan, I'm excited for you. If it's a great opportunity, I want you to pursue it. I said, but I will tell you this. There is no other law firm managing partner in any law firm in Texas or elsewhere that's going to put up with you keeping bicycles and gym clothes and running shoes in your office. And sure enough, a year later, Alan Albright called me back, and he said, is there any way I could come back to Bracewell? And I said, you can. We still have your office. It's still a mess, and you're welcome to come back and pick up where you left off. So as a practitioner at the firm, Alan really had a tremendous impact on our firm. He brought our IP litigation practice to a national stage, a stage that it had never been before. He introduced a who's who list of A-list tech company clients to the firm, including Hewlett-Packard, Google, AT&T, Apple, AOL, Time Warner, Facebook, Yahoo, and many, many others. In 2013, Alan was charged with representing Centrix Biosystems in a very important and large case. It was a successful verdict, a jury verdict, that Centrix Biosystems won a $115 million patent infringement jury verdict against Illumina involving DNA technology. I mention this particular case because I know that Alan was very proud of that accomplishment, as were his partners. But at the time that case was resolved, that jury verdict was the largest patent verdict in Washington state history and one of the nation's largest verdicts of the year. And in fact, in that year, the National Law Journal identified the Centrix verdict as one of the top 20 verdicts in the nation for that year. Alan was ranked as one of the top IP lawyers in the country by Chambers USA, which is the leading recognition for lawyers, for 8 consecutive years, a testament to the esteem and respect he held amongst his clients and peers. According to the Chambers USA editors, Alan's clients described him, quote, as a first-rate, excellent trial lawyer. In 2017, Alan was elected a fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers, an elite fellowship that is limited to 1% of the lawyers in any particular state. In addition to Alan's excellence as a lawyer, Alan was and is and will continue to be for his law clerks an excellent mentor and teacher of younger lawyers. The Bracewell associates who had the opportunity to work with Alan became fans of his, and they often became close personal friends. And it certainly helped your career if you were an associate of Alan's, if you enjoyed running, biking, and being outdoors. And this is true that we have an annual evaluation process. It's formal. You're supposed to do it online. Of course, Alan never turned his in online. So I'd have to call him up and say, can you give me, the evaluation of your associate? And one who is in this room today, Alan's response was, yes, he's a very good young associate, but more importantly, he's a fantastic runner, so please pay him his full bonus. I was like, okay. So many, as I look out here today, there are many of Alan's former associates that are here this afternoon, and I know that they would all agree that Alan is a wonderful mentor. Last but not least, Alan distinguished himself as a great law firm partner by being a wonderful friend and colleague to so many at Bracewell. As managing partner, you dream for all of your partners to be like Alan Albright. Alan dedicated himself to Bracewell, whether it was helping build out our IP practice, recruiting law students at the University of Texas, teaching law students at the University of Texas, or volunteering in the Austin community with our partners, associates, and staff. On a more personal note, I want to thank you, Alan, for your contributions to Bracewell, for your friendship. You certainly made us a better firm, not just because of your great legal mind, your strong work ethic, and your commitment to others, but because you are an honest, kind, funny, and engaging person. It was an honor to be your partner, and on behalf of all your partners at Bracewell, we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Honorable Court, My name is Billy Kodire, and I'm happy to be with you today for the occasion of the investiture of my old and dear friend, Alan Albright. You draw a pretty good crowd. There is lots of credit to go around for this outstanding appointment. Credit goes to the Cornyn Cruz Federal Judicial Evaluation Committee, chaired by David, for their hard work in screening candidates and recommending Alan to our senators. To the ABA Evaluation Committee, about which Leonard spoke, whose thorough work led it to rate Alan as well qualified, the highest rating available. To our senators for recommending Alan to the President for nominating him, and to the full Senate for having the good sense to confirm him. He will serve the Waco Division of the Western District of Texas well and ably for many years to come. Alan and I met in the spring of 1980, about 2/3 of a lifetime ago, as students at Trinity University in San Antonio, where he was a year ahead of me. My impression of him then remains my impression today. He's a standout. At Trinity, Alan served in the Student Senate, was elected to Phi Beta Kappa, was selected to the Mortar Board and Blue Key Honor Societies, and graduated with honors. After graduation, he enrolled in UT Law School and was selected to the Texas Law Review based solely on his academic record. When our favorite Trinity history professor called and told him that I would be coming to UT Law the next fall, Alan called and suggested that we be roommates, and I agreed. He was generous with both his time and his advice as I navigated my first year. And since both of us were out of the mold of Oscar Madison and not Felix Unger, it was a good fit. And together and since neither of us had much in the way of means at the time, we together explored the limits for the minimum standards for student housing in East Austin. Alan insists that we got half off the rent of our first apartment when the ceiling caved in. I don't remember the discount, but I do remember the hole. Now, rooming with Alan was not a one-way street. While he counseled me on Professor Weintraub's contract class, I taught him the lyrics to every Willie Nelson song I knew. Now, it took some repetition to stick, but I think it did, since he invited me to Austin City Limits and introduced me to Willie 20 years later. Further evidence is Alan's message to me yesterday that he considered it cosmic that his investiture was being held the very same week as Willie's 86th birthday. From Trinity Hill to Towns Hall, to our places on Riverway, Cherrywood, and Glenview, to our clerking at the old Austin Courthouse on 8th Street. Gee, ain't it funny how time slips away. Following UT Law School, Alan served as a law clerk for Judge Jim Nallen, and the two have been like father and son ever since. Judge Nallen's was a coveted clerkship among the law students at UT, both because of geography and temperament. Geography, because Nallen was based in Austin, and so many of UT's top law students wanted to stay there, and also because Nallen had a home in Telluride, a town that hosted the Western District Conference for the Administration of Justice each ski season. Temperament, because Nallen was and is a good and fair judge who does not take himself or the lawyers who appear before him too seriously. After 2 years of serving as law clerk, Alan entered private practice, first with McGinnis Lockridge, then with Aiken Gump, where he excelled, but returned to government service in 1992 when chosen as the United States Magistrate Judge for the Austin Division, serving until 1999. Alan then re-entered private practice, where he was made partner at various times in almost every law firm with an Austin branch office. At these places, he distinguished himself as a skilled and able trial lawyer, and along the way won professional accolades too numerous to mention, so I won't. But you get my point. He's a standout. And here's the paradox. He acts like anything but. He is as down to earth, as modest, as commonsensical as any person you will ever meet. Modesty is not a trait often seen in lawyers who reach the heights of our profession like Alan has, but it's in Alan, in his core. So to the bar, what kind of judge are we getting? Alan's honest. He works hard. He's very, very smart. Probably brilliant. He's fair-minded. He understands what it is to be a trial lawyer, the demands that are made on us, the pressures that we face, because he's been there in the trenches. He's happy. Alan has always loved whatever he is doing. Student, lawyer, magistrate, judge, son, brother, father, friend. And I'll let you in on a little secret. He loves being a judge. His love for what he is doing is contagious, and it lifts everybody in his orbit. Importantly, as the ratings by the lawyers who appeared before him as a magistrate judge confirm, he will impartially apply the law to the facts and will faithfully fulfill the command of Title 28, United States Code, 21st chapter, verse 453, laid down by the Judiciary Act of 1789, to administer justice without respect to persons and to do equal right to the poor and to the rich. Alan's modesty has always been paired with a drive to succeed. To understand this, we must understand where he came from. Alan was raised in San Antonio by a single mother. Shirley Albright was a strong woman. She was our school nurse at Trinity, was beloved by all the students. She worked hard to provide for Alan and for his brothers and sisters. She instilled core values of selflessness and perseverance in family. She gave love unconditionally, and by her example, showed her children how to face and overcome difficult circumstances. Her selflessness took hold in Alan. Many of our classmates who graduated near the top of the class landed high-paying jobs at what Judge Nallen called deep carpet law firms. Then they rushed to reward themselves with all the material comforts their salaries could buy. With the exception of his one indulgence, 3-button suits, not Alan. Instead, he gladly volunteered to help pay the college tuition for his youngest brother, Andy, who's with us today, who had earned admission into Vanderbilt University, and Alan took great pride in Andy's success. Alan's modesty, his humility really, was noted last year by the caregiver for Alan's mom, who was then in assisted living. Alan, along with his sons, James and Grayson, came to visit Shirley every weekend, long after she no longer recognized them. The caregiver took notice of their frequent visits because such visits were not the norm, and also because of the kindness and gentleness with which Alan treated his mom, and the example that he set for his sons. Shortly after the president nominated Alan to this bench, the local paper carried the news. When Alan came to visit his mom the following weekend, probably dressed in a ragged t-shirt and shorts, the caregiver started right in on him. "I have a bone to pick with you," she said. "You never acted important. You treated everybody here with respect. You never told us you were important. You got nominated by the president and we had to learn it in the paper?" Alan tried to explain that he was not important. It was the office to which he had been nominated that was, but she was having none of it. The man has humility. And finally, Alan has balance. He knows the importance of work and the importance of family. James and Grayson are the lights of his life. That was evident to all in the packed courtroom when Alan took the oath last September and then made a few remarks. Taking the oath as an Article III judge has to be an overwhelming and emotional experience, as many of our friends here today know. Yet, the only time Alan choked up was when he glanced over at his boys. They are his world, a world recently enlarged by Meeta Margaret. In a talk to the Fourth Circuit several years ago, Bernie Ward, one of Allen's UT law professors, argued that law schools had a responsibility to provide students with a moral education, to turn out students who would do their best and not their worst, who would, as lawyers, assist the courts in the administration of justice and fulfill the goals of Federal Rule 1. To reach the students, Professor Ward implored the court, "We need saints. We must have them as models." And then he added, "The most visible saints of our profession are the members of the judiciary. They are the most remarkable collection of men and women that our times can boast of. Men and women of unusual ability who turn away from the very abundant rewards that society would cheerfully give them to embrace an arduous, all-consuming, and often thankless life. Now another saint joins the ranks of the United States District Court for the Western District of Texas. Through his modesty, his intellect, and his drive, Allen will provide our profession and the parties before him, in the words of his law professor, with a vision of the world in which the most admirable willingly choose a life of service and delight in it. God bless this honorable court. Godspeed, old friend."
Thank you, Mr. Bopp and Mr. Dyer. I'll now ask Bobby Inman, Admiral, U.S. Navy, retired, for the reading of the Presidential Commission.
The President's Commission. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. To all who shall see these presents, greetings. Know ye that reposing special trust and confidence in the wisdom, uprightness, and learning of Alan D. Albright of Texas, I have nominated, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to appoint him United States District Judge for the Western District of Texas, and to authorize and empower him to execute and fulfill the duties of the office according to the Constitution and laws of the said United States, and to have and to hold the said office with all of the powers, privileges, and emoluments to the same of right appertaining unto him, the said Alan D. Albright, during his good behavior. In testimony thereof, I have caused these letters to be made patent, and the seal of the Department of Justice to be hereby affixed. Done in the city of Washington, this 10th day of September, in the year of our Lord, 2018, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 242nd. By the President, signed, Donald J. Trump, signed, Jefferson B. Sessions, Attorney General. Congratulations, Your Honor.
Now, thank you. I'll now ask Mr. Gregory Scott Thomas, General Counsel at Cyrus Logic, to read a letter from President George Bush.
Like most of you here today, I am Alan Albright's best friend. That line sounds vaguely reminiscent of the old television game show, What's My Line? Fortunately, we don't have to play that today. Judge Albright is not only my best friend, but he truly is a best friend to everyone here today. And I am truly honored to be selected to be on this stage and represent all of his best friends today in celebrating his appointment to the federal bench. I've known Alan for 20 years. For those of you who live in Austin, I'm sure you've probably seen us running down either downtown or running down on Town Lake. For anyone who may have mixed us up, I'm the one wearing a shirt. And from the first time I ran with him until even today, we could not run more than even a quarter of a mile without somebody recognizing Alan and stopping us and saying, "Hi, Alan," or "Hello, Judge." And what I've realized over those years, other than I need to get my name out there a little more, is that Judge Albright has spent his entire personal life and legal career making everyone around him feel like their best friend. Whether it's opposing counsel or co-counsel, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, or whether it's someone he has known and run with for 20 years, or someone he just recently met on the running trail. Now, what many of you may not know, however, is that we would do our long runs on Sunday. We would get up very early for those runs. And over those 20 years, those runs have become shorter and shorter and shorter. But what remained true for that whole time, and as long as I can remember, until just recently, was that after every Sunday run, Alan would gather up his shirt, put it on, rush home, pick up his sons, James and Grayson, and go visit his mom. Alan, I'm sure she's watching today, and I'm sure she would be particularly proud to hear the following letter from former President George W. Bush. Dear Alan, congratulations on your confirmation as a United States District Judge for the Western District of Texas. Laura and I are thrilled for you, and we know you'll do a fine job on the bench. As a member of our nation's judicial system, you play an important role ensuring the rights of every American and maintaining the balance between individual freedom and civil order. I applaud your integrity, professionalism, and commitment to public service. We send our best wishes. Sincerely, George W. Bush. Alan, congratulations to you on this great day. I say this on behalf of all your best friends. And although we will miss you in Austin, and I will certainly miss our long runs, I am truly happy for the people of Waco, Texas, who now have a new best friend. Thank you.
Now I'm going to ask the longest serving, not the oldest, the longest serving district judge in the history of the Western District, Judge Nowlin, James Nowlin, to administer the constitutional oath of office. I recall a few years ago, 2 or 3, on a Sunday afternoon, and I get a call on my cell phone, and it's from Nowlin. Heaven knows what he wants on a Sunday afternoon. And he's telling me the day will come, and this did happen, the day will come when Alan Albright will be sworn in as a district judge. And he says, Orlando, I know ordinarily the chief judge administers the oath. I would like to administer the oath to Alan when he becomes a judge. And I told him, if you make that happen, you can do whatever you want. And so Judge Nowlin was a private practitioner of the law in San Antonio, Bexar County for several years. Later in time, he was general counsel to the United States Senate. Later in time, he served 7 terms in the Texas House of Representatives, and then he received his appointment to the federal judiciary. I did tell you that the court was created in 1857, but no, Franklin Pierce did not appoint James Allen. Actually, it was President Reagan. I've known Jim for, I think, since the mid or early 70s, and we are appreciative of his service and look forward to many, many more years on the Western District. Judge Nowlin. Oh, come on up. And then at the conclusion of the oath, Then the following individuals will be assisting Judge Albright with his robe: Meta Margaret Carson, James Allen Albright, Grayson Albright, and Diego Kuhn. And then a member of the bar, Thomas Melsheimer, shall introduce Judge Albright.
I told you this time would come. After listening to all of this, I think I'm going to call you Saint Albright.
Be appropriate.
All right, if you'd raise your hand and repeat after me. I, Alan D. Albright, do solemnly swear.
I, D. Allen Albright, do solemnly swear.
That I will administer justice without respect to persons.
That I will administer justice without respect to persons.
And do equal right to the poor and to the rich.
And do equal
right
to the poor and to the rich.
And to the rich. That latter part's important.
First part's important too.
That's true. And that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform.
I will faithfully
and impartially
discharge and perform
all duties incumbent upon me.
All duties incumbent upon me.
As a United States District Judge for the Western District of Texas.
As a United States District Judge for the Western District of Texas.
Under the Constitution and the laws of the United States.
Under the Constitution and the laws of the United States.
And that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
And I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
And I take this obligation freely.
I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully.
I will well and faithfully.
Discharge the duties.
Discharge the duties.
Of the office on which I am about to enter.
Of the office on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
May it please the court, my name is Tom Melsheimer, and it is a tremendous honor for me to be asked to provide an introduction for my good and great friend Alan Albright. After listening to some of these remarks, I feel compelled to offer occasionally a bit of a rebuttal. When he asked me to introduce him, I was touched by his remark that introductions like this make him feel a bit uneasy. And I responded, certainly, I understand that all the praise about one's achievements can seem a little over the top and unreal. And he said, no, I'm uneasy because I don't want anything left out. So I will try not to leave anything out. In doing so, I want to talk about three things. I want to talk about change, I want to talk about loss, and I want to talk about the future. If you follow Judge Albright's career before he took the bench, it was defined somewhat paradoxically by change and constancy. By change, I mean the remarkably generous spirit that caused lawyer Albright to make his formidable talents available to so many different law firms, local firms, Texas firms, national firms, international firms, small firms, big firms. How forward-thinking was he really early in his career? Was he just trying to maximize The number of firms that could one day claim a federal judge as an alum? Or enlarge the size of his investiture planning committee? Now, if I might diverge for a moment for a bit of a treasurer's report. As you know, events like this cost money. And we were lucky to have many of Judge Albright's former firms contribute to the festivities today. In fact, by asking his former firms to contribute a mere $50, we were able to raise $1.7 million. If we had included firms where Alan spent less than 6 months, we would have exceeded $2 million. I would list all those firms for all of you, but we do have to be out of here by 5 p.m. Now, I knew of Alan at the University of Texas School of Law. He was 2 years ahead of me, but I didn't get to know him well until he opened up the Austin office of a firm called Fish & Richardson when I was in Dallas. Before we became law partners, I knew him as a well-regarded magistrate judge and a lawyer who wore bow ties. And although Fish patented the telephone and the airplane, lawyer Albright came to the firm with a substantial amount of experience in patent cases, having been at Gray Carey in Austin during one of the many tech booms. The way Alan ran the Austin office was a precursor, I think, to how he would be as a judge. He did not take himself too seriously. His door was always open. And he seemed to always have time to knock around a thorny legal issue. What he almost never did was wear collared shirts or long pants or socks. One time he didn't even wear a shirt. And he brought an Austin vibe, though, to that sometimes traditional law firm environment. We all needed to take ourselves less seriously, and Alan helped us do that. And I'll note, early in our days together, he had an affinity for Waco because one of his very first hires, one of the very first people he recruited to the Austin office of Fish was Waco's own Tommy Jacks. Now, I mentioned constancy a moment ago, and that is the paradox, really, of all of us who've known Judge Albright over the years. He was, of course, a magistrate judge early in his career, but he left the bench for private practice. But he was constant in his desire to return to the bench. But not in a way that was unseemly or off-putting. Well, maybe a little off-putting. You see, in those days, if you worked with Alan, you had to deal with his occasional, every once in a while, daily reference to his former career as a magistrate judge. If you asked Alan, if you present him with a complex legal issue, he would often begin his answer, "When I was on the bench." If you asked him how to deal with the difficult opposing counsel, he would say, "When I was on the bench." If you asked him where he wanted to go to lunch, he would begin his answer, "When I was on the bench." We don't have to deal with that anymore. But truly for Alan, being a judge was his calling, his vocation, if you will. He knew he'd been good at it as a magistrate, and he knew with so many years of experience as a lawyer, he would be even better at it as a district judge. Now let's talk about loss. As for loss, the Western District of Texas Waco Division's gain is the loss to the community of trial lawyers. Because as outstanding as we expect Judge Albright to be in a long career as a judge, he was equally outstanding as a trial lawyer. A fact, as has been mentioned, made apparent by his membership in the American College of Trial Lawyers, one of a relatively few number of judges to be so. Now, everyone that becomes a judge brings different skills and life experiences, and certainly there can be a variety of experiences that can prepare one to be a skilled judge. But the skill of being a trial lawyer, a skill that Judge Albright absolutely mastered as lawyer Albright, provides a particularly valuable background, I believe, for a district judge. Now, I don't know all the cases that Judge Albright tried as a lawyer or who all he tried those cases with, But it's my belief that I spent more time in trial with Judge Albright than anyone else. We tried a series of remarkably hard-fought patent cases on the West Coast that spanned many months. To be in trial with Alan was an absolute pleasure. It was also a clinic in cross-examination. But it was a little like Hemingway or James Joyce. He did it his way, and it was very effective, but you can't teach someone how to write like Hemingway, and you can't teach someone how to cross-examine like Alan Albright. You could tell an Albright cross-examination by simply reading the transcript, even if the names were blacked out. He would come at a witness, often an expert, in a friendly, almost obsequious way. Phrases like, "You know a lot more about this than I ever will," or "Gosh, this is complicated to most people, but I know it's not for you," or "I'm sorry to sound so dumb, but I'm hoping you can straighten me out." All these kinds of statements would allow Alan to approach a witness with great stealth, with the witness unaware of what was to come. He didn't so much lead the witness down a garden path as he led them down a side street, up an alley, around a parked car, and then into the lobby of a vacant building. Now, one particular example of this, he was in charge of examining a particularly difficult expert witness whose testimony was critical to the claims of patent infringement. And under the laws that existed then, the expert's testimony turned on whether a particular piece of software was capable of doing something. Now, the testimony from the expert had been that the software was so capable, yet it required a cascade of seemingly unlikely and remote events to be so. So we couldn't attack this capability issue head on, so Alan came at it a different way. He probed the witness repeatedly about whether he had tried a variety of steps to get the software to execute in a particular way. Did you ever try to do X? Did you ever try to do Y? Did you ever try to do Z? No, no, and no. And finally, exasperated by the questions he's being asked, the expert simply blurted out, "If I tried any of those things, you would get up here and accuse me of modifying the software." And completely unfazed, Alan responded, "No, I'd say eureka, you found it." And it was incredibly effective at the time because it showed the expert really didn't have the common sense to appreciate that they needed to explain exactly how the software worked. And it was a critical cross-examination in the case. And frankly, it taught me a lot. It inspired me and others to find the right time to be fearless in cross-examination and not to be wed to always having to know the answer in advance. And as Alan said many times, there are some questions for which the answer doesn't matter. And sometimes you can turn any answer to your advantage. I don't need to tell any more trial stories about Judge Albright to know that he had a remarkable talent for simplifying the complex and teaching juries how to see things from the vantage point of his client. His approach was unique and often couldn't be replicated, yet he was always effective, and the trial lawyer bar will be poorer for his absence. Now, the future. I want to talk about the future. The future's now. Anyone that has had the pleasure of watching Judge Albright here in Waco, the future's now. The hit television show Cheers had a theme song called "Where Everybody Knows Your Name." That show, of course, was about good friends who spent a lot of time together. That is the atmosphere much of the time in his courtroom. In the Waco courthouse, Judge Albright makes it a point not only to know the names of all the parties and lawyers, but to make everyone feel truly welcome to be there. He's so obviously delighted to be a judge that his enthusiasm is infectious. He seems genuinely glad to see the lawyers, and if they aren't old friends or colleagues, he does his best to make them feel that way. I was kind of stunned to learn a few moments ago that I was not Alan's best friend, but he tries to make everyone feel that way. And I'm reminded of the highly regarded district judge from Arkansas, Judge Wilson, who quipped that being a federal trial judge is like being paid to eat ice cream. To anyone who's watched Judge Albright on the bench, it's clear that he wants 2 scoops. And of course, the media has taken notice of Judge Albright and his welcoming attitude towards patent cases. Some of this may be going to his head. When I told him I'd read a New York Times feature piece about all the changes in Waco and how it was becoming a booming spot for tourists, he said, "Yes, I did not think I would have this much impact so quickly." I had to break it to him that the article was crediting Chip and Joanna for all the attention. But what Chip and Joanna have done for many a ranch-style home, my wife's going to be so pleased with that quip. What Chip and Joanna have done to many a ranch-style home, Judge Albright will do for Central Texas patent litigation and all sorts of other cases as well here in Waco. He will do so with enthusiasm, skill, and a tireless willingness to help the parties move their cases along in an efficient way. And as been said, with a great sense of humor as well. I don't think a lawyer or a litigant or anyone in the courthouse could ask for anything more. So, no introduction can fully capture all there is about a person. So in spite of my pledge, I've undoubtedly left something out. Knowing that Judge Albright will now have the floor to fill in the gaps, I present to you a lawyer's judge, a judge's judge, a judge we are so very lucky to have, Judge Alan Albright.
Chief Judge Garcia and fellow members of the court, I'm going to go a little out of order. I hope I can keep up with my notes, but I feel like I need to directly thank Tom Melsheimer for his speech, because I think everyone needed a time when they could check their emails and texts and didn't need to really pay that much attention to what was being said after all the other talented speakers. So thank you for filling that role for everyone. I'd sure like to thank everyone who has been gracious enough to attend this investiture today. You cannot imagine how honored I am to look out and see everyone that's here, and how grateful I am. So this is a couple of hours I will treasure forever, and I think we would all agree that a wiser man than me would pocket everything that's been said that's nice about me and just sit down and think this was the greatest day ever. But as I suggest I might just sit down and not say anything, I know my law clerks are thinking there's no chance in H.E. Devil hockey sticks that man's not going to keep talking for a while. So let me start by thanking God for every gift that He's given me. With respect to my two sons, James and Grayson, I hope they can cherish and appreciate what an amazing day this is. When Tiger Woods won the Masters last month, I watched him interviewed, and they asked him, how special was this win? How big a deal was this win? Was it better than the others? And he said it was the best of his life, because it was the first win he'd ever had where his children could be there and watch him perform the way he wanted to perform and to win. I try to remind my sons often what President Kennedy said to all of us: don't pray for easy lives, pray to be stronger men. So neither of my parents graduated college. Despite that, or I might suggest to you because of that, all 5 of their children have graduate degrees. My parents divorced the year that I graduated high school. As a result, I changed the course of my life from where I was going, and I stayed in San Antonio to help raise my brothers and sisters. I wanted going to Trinity University. I took a job to help my mom out, and it was a different plan than I had been planning. But as I stand before you today, I realize that God has a plan for each one of us, even if we can't see it while it's unfolding. Because after I graduated from Trinity and while I was at law school, I won't bore you with the details, but in an event that could never happen again in an era where there weren't cell phones and all that stuff, a professor from college happened to call me up, and if I hadn't been standing in my apartment at that 10 seconds, I would have missed it, and it would never happen. We talked for a few minutes, and I told him my only regret was that I had not applied to be a clerk for a federal judge, and he said, I know one of those. Let me give him a call. And that evening I had dinner with Judge Nowlin. So ultimately, but for my parents, what they went through, I would not be here before you today. I picked this club for this investiture so that my mom and dad would have the best seats in the house. So, this is all the hard part. Now, I'm about through this, but they're up in heaven and they're with us in my heart right now. My enormous gratitude to Judge Nowlin, who swore me in. We met in 1983, and all of you know, well, now you know from the chief that he has served as a federal judge in the Western District longer than anyone else ever has. But I would tell you that whatever respect or admiration or affection anyone has for him as a federal judge, which should be enormous and unlimited, it will never match what he's done for my children. I want to thank the President and the Texas Senators for nominating me to this position. I got a call from Senator Cornyn on Monday morning congratulating me about this investiture. And I didn't really need to tell you all about that, except I just think it's so cool to say I got a call from the senator on Monday morning congratulating me on this investiture. I mean, seriously, how often can you I mean, I've gone with the, I used to be a judge line, I mean, so this one's going to have to work for a little while. I want to thank Judges Smith and Elrod of the Fifth Circuit for being here, as well as Judges Scholler, Kernodle, Mazant, Kincaid, Morales, Rodriguez, and Schrader. It means the absolute world that you all would come here and share this and be here for me. It's become a family I could never imagine. The folks to my right are kind of stuck with me, I think. I hope. I'm not sure. But I think that's the way it works. I obviously think I'm the luckiest person in the world to be serving in the Western District, but gosh, to have you all sitting here for this day will be unforgettable to me. Also in attendance are Michael Troncalli, Cam Barker, and Sean Jordan, who will soon be planning their own investitures. And I guess with Cam Barker more quickly maybe than he thought he would, since he was confirmed by the Senate today. Congratulations, Cam. What a wonderful day you must have. I'd like to thank specifically and individually my magistrate judge, Jeff Mansky. I could not perform the job that I'm doing without having, to get in trouble for this, the best magistrate in the world. I'm grateful for everyone else who's a magistrate judge from my district and other districts. But Jeff Mansky has been just an absolute joy to have as my magistrate judge. I'm unbelievably grateful to Baylor for hosting this event today and the reception afterwards. I could not have been any luckier than to have become a trial judge in a city that offers the best law school, maybe in the world, but at least in the United States, for anyone who wants to be a trial lawyer. I'm so lucky to be here, and I hope I can be part of the Baylor family as well. I want to thank my amazing friend Scott Thomas, who you heard from, who discounted the fact that he probably had to listen to about 1,000 hours of me complaining, whining, crying, whatever you might say over the 2 years it took for the Senate to act with all the wisdom they did in confirming me. I mentioned my sons earlier, that I'd already won life's lottery by having them in my life, and it didn't matter whether I've been blessed with this nomination or not, because they're in my life. But as I was writing this, and I thought, speaking of the lottery, it made me think of my beautiful fiancée, Meta Margaret Carson. And I think it's obvious, Meta Margaret, you clearly won the lottery when you met me. Okay, my law clerk wrote that, and I think that may not have been exactly, well, Meta Margaret was my shepherd throughout this process, making sure that I never made a misstep and providing light when the path seemed dark. And she knows me better than anyone should have to know me, and despite that, she has agreed to become my wife. It's a trade-off. I've agreed to marry her despite the fact she's getting her nursing degree from Texas A&M. So you can't do any better at singing than Monty Warden, and we are honored to have him sing the national anthem here today. I've always told him if I had had his talent, I would have never gone to law school. I would have done exactly what he did, and we both agreed that we're both better off that I didn't have any talent in that regard at all. A few people have pointed out that I worked for more than one law firm in my career. I thought that was going to go unnoticed, but it didn't. I certainly am grateful to every law firm I ever practiced at. There are lawyers from every law firm I ever practiced at here. I have great love and affection for all of them, and I'm obviously enormously grateful to Bracewell, where I ended my private practice. They were unbelievably supportive of what I did. Now, in fairness, when I told Greg Bopp that I was thinking about doing this, I think he said, right, like there's a chance that'll happen, and went on about his business. Now, actually, the law firm, from the beginning of this process through the day that I was confirmed, was behind me 190%. And that's not an easy thing to do. There were, like everyone says, there were a lot of times when it was very difficult to bring in new clients, to be working as much as law firms would like you to work or do any of that. It's just, you're kind of half, lawyer. You're not half of anything else until the Senate votes. But, the law firm could not have been any better. I will be forever grateful to the support the law firm showed to me throughout. If I say anything nice or start talking about Billy Dyer, I'll choke up again. So I'll just say thank you, and to Leonard Gilbert and David Pritchard. I hope the audience appreciates the fact that you would take the time to be here and explain what the process is like for every person that's seated to my right. It's we all like to think, because we're federal judges, how hard life was on us, but we would not have been able to get through this process without lawyers like you being willing to serve in the capacity that you do. And it's an enormous benefit to the United States that you're willing to do so. But to every law firm I ever worked for, every lawyer I ever worked with, every lawyer I ever worked against, every judge I ever appeared in front of, each of them, each of you, played a part in making me who I am today, making me a better person, making me a better trial lawyer. And I thank you for every lesson I learned in the time I got to spend with you. Character is destiny. I've always tried to be the very best person I can be. Sometimes I fall short, most often when I'm driving between here and Austin, but especially when I'm driving through Temple. Good luck to everyone. But I'm honored to have been trusted with a job that requires a special grace a special compassion, a special kind of wisdom, and a lot of patience. I'm hoping that my role as the father of two teenagers has given me a little training with respect to the amount of patience I need. I'm sure both of them would tell you I still have a lot of work to do. But as Proverbs 16:23 teaches us, patience is better than strength. Controlling your temper is better than capturing a city. I will try to be mindful of what best-selling author George Saunders once said, "What I regret most in my life are failures of kindness. I'll do my best to never suffer that regret." But I understand that the job of being a judge is to be a judge, to make decisions, to resolve disputes, to be fair, and to do it quickly, because justice delayed is justice denied. I am passionate about being a judge, but I don't believe there's any special magic that's needed. I just believe that if I focus every day on being a better judge than I was the day before, to learn a new lesson from every time I assume the bench, and to never be fully satisfied with my performance, then I will serve all of you well and faithfully. I intend to do what Mark Cuban advises, to work every day like there's someone else working every day to take it all away from you. I give you my pledge that I will do my very best to be that person every time I walk into the courthouse, every time I leave the courthouse, whether I'm wearing a robe or not. To the lawyers who will appear in my court, to your clients, to the city of Waco, I promise I will be tireless in fulfilling my oath. We are not here today to celebrate my being sworn in, but to celebrate that I am the 41st person to be sworn in as the United States District Judge in the Western District of Texas, and I've sworn before each of you and before God the same oath that has been administered to Article III judges since 1789, and that each of the fine judges to my right, who will lead by example for me, took themselves. I've only just begun to serve the community in my country, but I'm no pioneer. We're blessed in this district and this nation to have amazing judges who have served us so well that it's been a little bit of a challenge to come up to speed as quickly as I'd like, but I'm getting there. And that's what each president expects from each person he nominates, and I hope that I've done a good job over the last 7 months in being up to the task. I hear often in the press that there are Trump judges or that there are Obama judges, but there aren't. To maintain the respect of the bar and the community, I must prove myself worthy of it. I will never forget that I am the heir to the labor and hard work of every judge who has preceded me here. To the extent I succeed, my success will reflect the very best of what America has to offer and the very best of what I can be. If I should fall behind, I ask you for your patience. Whatever the course I follow in the future ultimately is, I stand before you in this beautiful stadium, being unbelievably lucky because I'm old enough to understand how to appreciate how blessed I am. As I set forth on this voyage, I ask for God's blessings. I ask for your support. I've tried my best to teach my children one lesson. You will only be happy in your job if it is the job that you most want to be doing. I intend to walk into the courthouse in Waco every day for as long as I'm able to walk and serve as an Article III judge because I've won the lottery. It's at the courthouse at 800 Franklin and with the courthouse family that I have there. I'm going to adhere to the saying, make your life into something joyful and find something every day that brings you joy. That's a quote from the famous philosopher Dora the Explorer. I have the unique opportunity, some might say burden, of never having again to listen to what someone else tells me I have to do. Okay, well, I'm not married yet, but But I'm talking about the decisions that I make in the courtroom during trial or during sentencing will rest on my shoulders and my shoulders alone. I'll do my very best to follow the law, but I'll understand it will be my independent judgment that I will have to rely on to resolve the many issues that will come before me. I'm going to say the words you most want to hear. I'm going to wrap up with this. Whether I met you at John Marshall High School in San Antonio like I met Frank Olvera and Lana Beard Cortez, or at Texas Law School where I met Judge Mike Snipes or John Allworth or Price and Vicki Ainsworth, on the running trail like Mike Sims and Neil Bremner, all of whom are my best friends, or whether I have met you since I moved to Waco 7 months ago, or anywhere in between. Thank you for being here today. I absolutely cherish you. I cherish the fact that you would take the time to be here today. I promise to be optimistic at heart. I will be resilient. I will be unwavering in my self-belief. I will be grateful. I'll be faithful to the United States Constitution. I will honor the commission that the President signed and the oath that my great good friend Judge Nowlin had me take. I will treat every person who walks into my courtroom with respect and humility and equality. But most of all, I will do my very best to live by the words my great good friend Judge David Counts told me. Don't let success go to your head. Don't let failure go to your heart. God bless America. God bless each and every one of you for being here today and sharing this moment with me. Thank you.
If you'll remain standing, we're blessed again to hear from our Reverend. Thank you.
Okay, y'all, so a benediction's not a prayer, it's a blessing. You're getting something from God. So the church anciently used to raise their hands, but I'm Presbyterian. This is the only time we ever raise our hands in church, but you don't have to do that. But if you would like, may the Lord our God fill us with his extravagant grace to reach us, renew us, put us back together again, and make us who we are. Now, the peace of God be with you, dear brother, both now and forevermore. Amen.
Thank you.
If you'll remain standing for the retirement of the colors.
Present. Halt. Order. Arms. Senator Moore.
If you'll remain standing just for a moment, we'll recess in a moment. Judge Albright, welcome to the Western District of Texas. Good job. And there was just a brief minor glitch. Judge Sparks was appointed by George Herbert Walker Bush. If I hadn't corrected that on the record, and this proceeding is being taken down on the record, I would hear that for the remaining days of my life. I would go to my grave with that error, and I would hear about it till I got to my site, and I would hear about it even beyond the grave. I do want to thank our Investiture Committee, Mr. Nash. You did a magnificent job, you and the committee. And I want to thank the sponsors. I want to thank Baylor University and the Baylor community, the members of the bar, and the community of Waco. We and you are very blessed to have Alan Albright, and I know he will serve with great distinction, character, and integrity. I mean, he's done all of that up to this point. I expect nothing less beyond. The court now, having fulfilled the purpose for which we convened, stands adjourned and subject to call. Hopefully we'll have an investiture sometime this summer in San Antonio, unless we can prevail upon the graces of Baylor University just to convene here again. It's a beautiful sight. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed His grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shine.